So hey, it's good to be back. I've really needed to get a couple of things out of my head today. More leadership queries and something I wanted to just share that's been on my mind, especially after what I spoke about in the last episode. So basically, I was on a leadership course years ago, and I was highlighted as good potential for leadership. They sent us on put us through some different aptitude tests and all these different things, psychological tests. Anyway, there was one of the exercises we had to do. One of the sessions was it was really interesting actually. So what they said was pick. They showed a screen full of words, and the words were just kind of like jumbled everywhere, all over the screen. They had I don't know, all these different words, and it was all things that you would kind of associate with leadership. Let's just say um, discipline, and then here it would say all different colours as well. So say like discipline, assertiveness, organisation, friendliness. They could be all these different words. There's probably about, I want to say, 80 on the screen maybe, and what they said to us, was they said, right, what we want you to do is pick three. No, first of all, they said pick 5 words, and I looked and I thought to myself, well, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pick 10. I'm going to pick 10, and then I'm going to whittle it down to 5. So I was picking for all these words, and there were a few that jumped out to begin with. Like I think humour jumped out, and empathy maybe. I can't remember. Anyway, I got to about 8, and as I got to about 8, he said, right, now you've got your 5, I want you to whittle it down to 3. And I thought, okay. So I probably got to about 4, maybe about 4 or 5 left, and I was thinking, I still don't feel right about this. It was just, I don't know, something felt off. So then he said, we're going to go for a 15-minute break. What I want you to do is use the 3 words that you finally picked and put them into sentences that sum up how you feel as a leader. So, for example, if I'd have picked the word assertiveness, my sentence might have been and it has to be to me. So I might say something along the lines of in my leadership. No, as a leader, I believe being assertive will give my team a sense of direction. I don't know. It's a really shit example, but something like that. So anyway, I picked my words, and then he said, the last thing he said was, if you want though, if you're not sure about your words, you can pick other words that aren't even on there. And I thought, okay. So everyone disappeared for the break, and I didn't. This was playing on my mind. So I picked my 3 words, I wrote my 3 sentences, and then afterwards, he said, "Does anyone want to share their sentences?" And I'm happy to share, but I'm happy to listen as well. So a few people, eager ones, keen to impress. Yeah, me. So they say theirs, and theirs were things like in my working environment, it is important to be to show fairness to all of my staff. And then one of them might have been in my average working day, I believe punctuality is a great way to start each day the right way. Something like that. And punctuality being the words, for example. And I was listening to all of these, and you had probably, let's just say, I think there were about 30 of us, 40 of us, and about 10 had given examples. And the host of the program, he knows that I'm very deep thinker. And he said, he just turned to me and he said, you've been quiet. He said, are you happy to share what you've written down? I'm intrigued. And I was like, yeah. I said, I'm happy to share it, but here's the thing. I said, I don't really think that what I've written down goes with what everyone else has written down. I said, I'm not quite sure if I've taken what you said a little bit too literally, to be honest. He said, what do you mean? And I said, well, everyone else has... There's a very work-based, like management type answers. I said, whereas you've asked me leadership questions. What do I believe? How do I use 3 words that mean a lot to me in terms of my leadership, and then make sentences out of those words as to how it kind of describes me as a leader. And I said, but the thing is, I've taken it as leader, and I've used it not in a work context, and everyone else has. So I said, I might have done it wrong, or I might have just, my brain's on a different path. So he said, right, share if you're happy to. And I said, okay. So bear in mind, like I said, a lot of the other ones were kind of, I'm gonna make sure my team has a good team bonding day out every month, or just something like that. So mine was sentence 1. I have a responsibility to ensure that no one is left behind. So my first word was responsibility. My second sentence, I will be relentless in the name of justice for all. I kind of used 2 there. So relentless was my second word, and then I threw justice in because I do like justice, but relentless was my word. Third sentence, I will retain all composure in the face of high levels of pressure for those that can't take the same amount of punishment and pain. Bit of a pause. He said, okay. Bit deep. He said, but to be honest, that's what I kind of expected from you. He said, I don't think this is the right place to discuss it, but yeah, let's discuss it next time we have a one-to-one. I was like, okay. So yeah, what was interesting about that is, like I said, I'm in a room full of supposed potential leaders of the future, whatever, and my answers were very, very different without me knowing what anyone else was writing. Obviously, that's how I felt. That's how I believe my kind of, that's what came into my head. Being given 15 minutes, those are the sentences I thought. I mean, I have a responsibility to ensure that no one is left behind. That's on me. I feel like a very protective of everyone, regardless of whether they're in my team or not, regardless of whether they ask for my protection or not. If I see the biggest, fiercest warrior being embarrassed or ridiculed or something by his boss, I will step in, because I don't like the way that he's being treated and he's accepting it. He might not want my help, but I don't like it. I don't like people being bullied. I don't like people being... There's a line. There's a line. I can sit and watch and tolerate for so long. And also if I feel, if you've got someone's boss completely ridiculing them, calling them every name under the sun, but I can tell that that person is okay in that moment and they're handling it well, I don't need to get involved. I might catch up with them afterwards and just say, are you alright? That was a bit much, wasn't it? I might say something like that. But yeah, the I think I can't help that protectiveness, which again is, I think, a bit of a something that's come from adoption and my childhood. But yeah, responsibility. I do feel very responsible for everyone. Everyone. So the second sentence was, I will be relentless in the name of justice for all. It's very, very, very similar to the first sentence when you actually think about it. But yeah, I want to make sure that my team is looked after, and I want to make sure that everyone's looked after. I don't like people being treated badly. So that's my second one. My third one. So I will retain all composure, so calmness, in the face of high levels of pressure. So that could be, I suppose, someone being very aggressive. That could be lots of things happening all at once. That could be a very short period of time to get something done. Whatever it may be, I will retain all composure in the face of whatever the fuck it may be, for those that can't take the same amount of punishment and pain. Now, it's a long story and something I'm going to have to talk about another time, but I've always believed that I deserve to be in pain, and I deserve to be punished, and I don't deserve good things. Again, long story, but because of those things, again, I feel a responsibility to be the person who is punished, to protect those that couldn't take that punishment as well. So all three of them are very protective sentences, and that's something that stood out to me the more I've reflected upon it. I mean, this was quite a while ago that I did that, and yeah, they're all very protective. So I suppose when you look at it, we're not talking about Master Tactician. We're not talking about Napoleon winning a war by whatever means. We're not talking about a great motivator. We're not talking about... I'm not talking about any of these other leadership traits at the moment, but all three of those sentences are a shepherd looking after his flock, protecting them, not seeing it as a job, not seeing it as what I should do or what I've been asked to do. This is, I see it, and everything inside me compels me to do something to make it right. I can't stand seeing it the way it is. So I think that protectiveness is a big thing. I also think there's an element of a kind of a fuck you. Sounds a bit much, but there's an element of that in there as well. This is another point that I really wanted to share, and it was something I was thinking about earlier this morning. And I wrote down a list of films and moments in films where things happen and I get the goosebumps, and I'm just like, fuck you. Yes, I love it. When people walk into either adversity or people laughing at them and they just stand there head high, just fuck you. That's why I love seeing, for example, if there was someone who was very flamboyant and camp, but just stand somewhere, head high, proud, the abuse can come, and it just flows over them like water off a duck's back. I love that, just that resilience, I suppose I would call it. So I tell you, I'll share a couple of these just moments of films that I've just thought, yes, just little words. Sometimes it might be a little word, a little action, anything. So the first one's in one of my favourite films of all time, but Interstellar. There's a moment in Interstellar where they need to dock. If for anyone that's seen it, they need to dock into the ship. It's been blown up. It's falling back into orbit of wherever they're near, and the robot says to the dude, "It's not possible," and he says, No. The first thing, he says it's not possible, and he's like, no, but it's necessary. So then I might get this wrong, but anyway, so he starts setting things up, says for them to match the spin or whatever, and then she says to him, "What are you doing?" And then he's like, "Docking." And that's it. There's no like explanation. There's no doubt in his mind. It's just, this is what needs to be done. I'm doing it. No panic. Straight into action. No doubt. It is gonna happen. I'm docking. Not, I'm gonna do my best to dock, or I'm docking. What are you doing? It's impossible. I'm docking. That moment of just factual speak. That's what I'm doing. I love that. Another one is, it's kind of weird because it's like in Top Gun. In Top Gun 2, if you've ever seen Top Gun 2, there's an amazing scene where I think he's just been kicked out. Maverick's just been kicked out, and he's set them this task of being able to do this run, bombing run, and none of them can beat the time. And he's been kicked out, and then all of a sudden they're like, "There's someone out on the course," and who is it? It's Maverick. And there's just that section of they're all stood there looking at the screen, and he sets a time which is way below what they've done, and they're just like, "Not possible." And it's just him. He's not said anything. He's just doing it. He's just walks out there and just does it. He just turns up, absolutely smashes it, disappears, and they're all just like, "Fucking hell!" But that fuck you-ness, I love it. Another one is that I've written down is it's in Kung Fu Panda. This, again, brilliant film. There's so many bits in Kung Fu Panda I absolutely love. But there's that bit where the Tai Lung, is it? The tiger? The snow leopard, I think he is, comes running at him, and the Po, the panda, grabs him with his finger, and he's like, he said, "You can't beat me, you're just a big fat panda." And he's like, "No, I'm the big fat panda." That there, the big fat panda. I'm still a big fat panda. I'm the big fat panda, not a big fat panda. That again is a fuck you moment. What else have I got? Titanic. You know in Titanic when the boat's sinking and you got the string quartet playing and they're just like, "Right, we've got to go," and then one of them just starts playing. It's just like, fuck it. I'm gonna die anyway, so I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna die doing what I love. So it's kind of a fuck you to death. Just whatever. And then they all do the same. They're just like, "Let's carry on, boys." Kind of like no words said. again, that's a kind of such a fuck you moment. I love it. And then I think there's another two. One is at the end of Babe. It sounds insane, I know, but you know at the end of Babe where the farmer Hoggett and Babe the pig, they go out to do their run and everyone's laughing and everyone's just, and the way he walks out just with his head high, ignores everyone, just walks straight out into the middle with just this fuck you look on his face, just walks out and doesn't have any doubt, just says off pig or whatever, away to me pig, I think he says, and then the pig goes off and then he does his run and then he finishes, and it's just the composure, that fuck you-ness. I love it. And then I think the last one that I thought of was Moana. In Moana, when she finds Tafiti, I think it is, she's on the island and she sees this fuck off big lava monster and the sea parts and then she just walks towards her, and then you've got this beautiful scene where the waves are up and she's walking and her hair's flowing in the wind and it's just slow motion and she's just walking towards this big lava monster with zero doubt, zero fear, just there's complete control, and all of those moments are very similar, but they all have this massive resonance with me and not just who I am, but I kind of like the way I would want to be leader, I suppose. The way you just kind of just not fussed about what anyone else thinks or says. I'm calm, and this is what I'm doing. That I think that calm, zero doubt in what you're saying, a lot of people like because they feel safe, I believe, with that level of control, decisiveness. Yeah, that for me, I think, along with the protectiveness, those two things are huge, 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 huge. And again, I'm starting to get a little bit of a list from different people about things that do stand out. As in like traits and skills that do stand out, but I think for me those two things, that kind of like that, I don't know what you'd call it, that resilient fuck you, I suppose, that composure, calmness, decisiveness, those moments that those people are having in those films, and also their ability to just go against what everything within their fibre is probably telling them to do. They just, I mean, the fact that Maverick is called Maverick, I think you can't decide to be a Maverick. I don't think you can choose to be a Maverick. I don't think you can choose to say, well, everyone's going that way, so fuck them, I'm going to go this way. I weirdly think part of my adopted child syndrome is something called oppositional defiance disorder. And it kind of means that you don't quite, not understand, I do fully understand, but in the moment you don't recognize someone's authority or supposed hierarchy. You just kind of, you see them as, you see everyone as the same, you see everyone as equal, and someone will kind of impart that, they expect you to be very subordinate, and the way I would describe it is, if someone could only see, say you got red, yellow and blue, but for say there was someone who couldn't see the colour red, and you said to them, on that white wall, when you get to the red door, walk through it, for example. And then, if you couldn't see the colour red, you would walk along the white wall, and you'd never see the door, and you just keep walking forever, and you'd be like, what is going on? And, or someone might have retrospectively said something like, oh, did you see the big red car? And you'd have been like, I didn't see any car. I don't know what you mean. And that's what it's like for me in those moments where I don't fully see things like peer pressure. So when I was younger, peer pressure wasn't a thing to me. I didn't really understand it. I understand, it's kind of like like a woman trying to describe childbirth to me. I understand the concept of it. I understand the theory of it. But I don't get it. Like, I can't comprehend it. I can't comprehend peer pressure. I can't comprehend when you've got a big group of people who are saying, oh, we're all going to have a cigarette. Do you want one? Not really, it stinks. Yeah, but we're all doing it. Yeah, but it stinks. And then they might all say, oh, well, we're all going to go to the shop and get chips. And I might say, oh, well, I'm going to the other shop because I want to get an apple. I'll meet you back here. And they'll think I'm off my head because I'll go on my own. And to me, in my head, I suppose it sounds slightly autistic when I'm saying it. To me, I'm going to the shop to buy an apple. I'm not going to the shop to be with you lot. I'll see you after. So I wouldn't, again, if someone was in a higher position than me, in a certain area, if they said to me, right, you need, if they weren't literal about something and they were very kind of like skate around the edges about it and assume that I'm going to do it because I'm scared of them, I'm going to make my own decision. And then even then, if they say, well, I'm in charge, I'm going to be like, yeah, you're not really. You've got a higher position than me within the business and you're paid more than me, but you're not really in charge. And I'll be like, well, I am in charge because that's my position. I'm like, no, not really. You've been put in a position that you should be in charge, but I'm gonna say you're not. And I don't. And then people are kind of like, but I am in charge, and I'll say, no. I'm gonna tell you that no, you're not. And especially if I don't have any faith in their leadership skills, if I don't have any faith in their ability to do the job, if it's someone who has very good ability, I've got a lot of faith in them, then I might, I'll kind of be like, yeah, cool. If you want me to do something, I'm all there. I'm full support. But if there's someone who I think isn't very good, then I'll say to them, no, you're not in charge. You just stay out of our way and we'll get it done. And I think for me, it's because I can't see the red door. So I'm not trying to be bad or a problem. I just cannot see that they are in charge. It doesn't make sense to me. I understand someone's put them in charge, but I didn't allow them to be. So they're not. It doesn't make sense to me. So then, it's kind of like what that means is, because of the whole peer pressure thing as well, when someone's in a field full of, imagine a field full of wheat, or even snow, say a field full of snow, and someone walks through the snow, and then everyone else kind of goes, everyone's kind of gone on that path already, so we're going to follow the path. It's kind of like, imagine you couldn't see those footprints when you make decisions. So I understand what people have done, but what I mean is to me, I've got 1,000 options open to me, and I'm going to use my logic to decide what I want to do in that moment, or what I believe is best, or There's logic in there. But then everyone else has kind of gone, well, Bob said do this, so we're going to go with Bob because that's just kind of what we're programmed to do, is follow the person in charge. But I can't see it. I don't see it, so it's a lot easier. I might go with them. A lot of the time I kind of will go, okay, well, let's see where this goes. But there are other times that I'll kind of get to a point and go, Bob's wrong here. That's the right way. I'm going to go that way. And I walk off. And everyone else is still kind of going that way. And they're like, where's he going? And I don't really recognise that they're going that way. I'm just like, if they're wrong, they're wrong. And I'm happy to be wrong if I'm wrong. But at the same time, when I know I'm not wrong, I'm not going to follow them. So that's part of, I think, part of the condition that came from being adopted. It meant that I didn't need to belong. I didn't need to belong to a family. I don't have that tribal thing. It's not there. So I think having that and being so protective means that I'm very good at seeing everything logically. I can see things without... I can stand up for what's right very easily. There's no kind of like worry about, oh, that person might think this and that person might... I'm just kind of, well, no, it's wrong. And I might have a whole room disagreeing with me, saying, you're a dick, you're this, you're that, you're going to mess it all up. And I'm like, but it's wrong. You can't do that to someone. Or I might be the one that says the opposite, this person, if this person dies, we're going to save hundreds. And then they'll go, well, you can't decide that. But to me, that makes sense. You're saving hundreds if you allow that person to die. And I think for a lot of people, they can't take away emotions. So again, it's really difficult to explain. I'd love to talk to someone about it. Someone who's a bit more, I suppose, experienced in trauma as a child, emotional trauma, and how it affects you. Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear. But anyway, I thought those 3 sentences would be interesting, and I thought also those little film references, and then obviously went off on a bit of a tangent. But yeah, I mean, I'd be super interested to see if there is anyone who, psychological expert, even like I said, someone who's got a bit of experience in childhood trauma, because I do think it wires you a certain way so that you're kind of, I'm not going to say immune to PTSD, but you're way less likely to feel the effects of stuff, because that bit of you, the bridge was broken as a child. So as an adult, you don't experience the same sort of pain and suffering. You experience the same experiences, if that makes sense, but differently. Your feelings are different about it. I believe, anyway. So yeah, I wanted to kind of get all that off my chest. It was something, like I said, I've been thinking about over the weekend. So yeah, any thoughts? Let me know. Any people you think that would know a lot about that sort of stuff, who'd be good to talk to? Let me know, please, because I'd love to talk to them. So yeah, cool. I'll catch up with you in a few days.